I said, fuck it, let me just talk about the shit I want to talk about. So I think the first like good one was Operation Highjump. You know, Admiral Byrd goes down to Antarctica with a armed fleet, supposedly looking for Nazi UFOs, and it's a 6-month mission, and in like a few days they have to turn back, and it's crazy stuff. So I did that story, and I think I got 50,000 views.
I don't think I saw that one.
It's an old one.
What happened in Operation Highjump?
All right, Admiral Byrd goes down. This is just after the war. Remember, the Nazis were fleeing to South America, so mostly Argentina. So the Nazis had established or tried to establish a base in Antarctica. That's true. It's New Schwabenland. Now, people say they were trying to build a Nazi base and all that stuff. They were really just looking for a whaling station to get oil. So Hitler didn't want to rely on outside sources. So anyway, after the war, they go down there. We still don't really know specifically why. It was supposed to be just to see how our aircraft would operate in cold weather. That was what they said. But this was a fleet that was armed to the teeth, like super, like armed. The first helicopters were there, destroyers. So they go down there. It's supposed to be a multi-month mission, maybe 6 months. They get down there, and in like a matter of weeks, maybe even fewer, they just bail. And no one really knows why. There's a press contingent there. No one knows what's going on. And Admiral Byrd starts giving these weird interviews. And the first one was in Spanish. It might have been either Argentinian or Brazilian newspaper. And he talks about how there could be these craft that attack the United States from the poles, and craft that can fly pole to pole. And people were like, what's that? And just sparked this crazy stuff. And you can hear him talking about these things. So Highjump goes down there to look for stuff. We don't really know why they left.
Admiral Byrd was talking about these crafts?
Admiral Richard E. Byrd, this famous guy, flew the North Pole like a super badass. He was, on paper, the commanding officer, but he preferred to just fly his plane and do stuff. So the legend is, they get down there, Admiral Byrd takes his plane, starts flying across Antarctica, and sees patches of green. And he can't believe it. And he's on the radio saying, I'm seeing this, rolling hills, sun is shining. He keeps flying. It gets greener and greener. And then he's like, I just saw woolly mammoths. Woolly mammoths grazing in the green. And he keeps going, and he's on the radio, and then he's talking, I'm seeing all this stuff. The sun is bright, and then radio contact goes out. He's flying and flying. Suddenly he's engulfed in light, and he doesn't know where he is. The green is behind him. He's just flying in light, just trying to get his bearings, and then up beside him, 2 flying saucers just kind of next to him. Almost like, the F-16s trying to wave you down. Mm-hmm. 2 flying saucers. And he looks over, and they have swastikas on them. And he's like, uh-oh. So he's on the stick, and he feels the stick shaking, and then the stick just goes dead. And then he goes down with the UFOs, and they just land into a cavern in the hollow earth. Right? So that's how that happens. And they take Admiral Byrd out, and they're tall aliens.
With swastikas on their crafts.
On the crafts.
Like the ancient symbol.
I don't know, which would be reversed, right?
Well, I think there was a bunch of different versions. I think the Nazi one, it was like kind of tilted.
Yes.
But there was a bunch of the Hindu ones and a lot of the Japanese ones.
For thousands of years.
Yeah.
A positive symbol of life and prosperity. We don't know how they were oriented because I debunked all this. I'm telling you the legend.
Right.
Because that's kind of my format, right?
Right.
I get you excited.
We should explain that to people. You get everybody all jazzed up, and then at the end, you kind of...
I get so much heat for it.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I watch the numbers. Like, as soon as I say, but is it true? Like, everyone's done.
Nobody wants to know the truth.
No one wants to know.
They want to know fun.
And then I'll get the hate mail. You ruined it for me.
So what is the truth?
The truth is, a lot of that comes from Admiral Byrd's diary, which was discovered years later, which was not his diary.
Yeah, have you ever looked into Klaus Schwab's, dad?
No.
Have you ever heard of New Schwabenland?
New Schwabenland?
You never heard of New Schwabenland?
No.
Have you ever heard of Operation Highjump?
I knew I was going to love this podcast. No.
Dude,
What's Operation
crazy.
Highjump? What does that mean?
Okay, so at one point, some people are like, what's going on with Antarctica? Have you heard this, where they sent Admiral Byrd up?
What's going on in Antarctica?
Yeah. So the U.S. government's like, something's going on with Antarctica. There's some activity up there. We want to find out what's going on. So they send this cat named Admiral Byrd up to investigate with a giant fleet, just a fleet to go bang, bro. You know.
When was this?
I think this was in the when was Eisenhower in? Was it the
50s?
Yeah, it was
60s?
like right around just either around World War II or right after it. And so they sent Admiral Byrd up to go find out. And according to his journal that they found much later, he basically met with UFOs, Nazi UFOs.
What?
Yes,
Nazi UFOs.
The Nazis.
The Nazis had a flying saucer.
Had made a deal, basically, working with
What?
You've never heard this?
No.
It's the greatest story ever, bro. It's the greatest
so
story.
the Nazis made a deal with the aliens?
Yes.
Holy shit.
For technology, and the deal was they were going to work together, okay? I know this sounds crazy. So basically, the aliens go down, and Klaus Schwab's dad go down and meet with Eisenhower. It's gonna be like we could either do it one way or the other way. We can do it nice or we can do it the wrong way, and that's where they say Eisenhower made a deal with these aliens that they could kidnap people and do experiments, but they couldn't just do it anywhere. They had specific places, which were our national forest.
What?
Yeah, dude. You've never heard of this.
You're making this sound
No.
as if this is like a story that is commonplace.
Well, for my people, it is.
Jamie, count me out here. Have you heard the
Honestly,
story?
brand new.
You've never heard of this? You've never heard of Operation Highjump, bro?
I feel like I've heard of that, but I haven't, not in this context.
This sounds
Let me see
amazing.
if I
Please
look
keep
up that
going.
way.
And
So,
this is where the missing 411 come from.
The missing information? What missing information?
No, the missing 411.
What do you mean by that?
Which is all these people have mysteriously disappeared in force. And they don't know
You're not
how.
talking about the missing 411 like information.
No.
You're talking- so missing 411 is the number of people that have been abducted?
Yeah, and it's all really weird because they all have a lot of similar characteristics. German-born, German background, highly intelligent, and I don't know how weird you want to get, bro.
I
but-
want to get weird.
Okay, bro. They think this might be some time-traveling Nazi shit, bro. I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but it's true, dude. That's what they believe, and they made
Who
a
is
deal.
These they folk?
Who?
When you say they believe, who are these they?
The conspiracy people.
Are they united on?
No, there's a whole different. There's a lot of
Many
warring
factions.
clans, bro. There's a lot of warring clans, dude.
But that one
How
is,
deep do you want to go?
What is interesting is how advanced the engineering of the Germans was. It's really interesting when you think about car manufacturers like Audi and Volkswagen, and Mercedes. It's all out of BMW. Didn't BMW make engines for Nazi fighter pilots? I think that's what they first started off
They
doing.
all did, bro.
But
I
I
mean,
think that's what BMW did, right?
yeah, 100%. And then we were
And Audi made Hitler a car.
Yeah,
Hitler had a race car. an
that was
Audi race
never
car.
part of their marketing plan, though.
Yeah,
that would
they're-
have been a crazy campaign.
What does it say there?
So 1939, BMW 801D piston
Radial aircraft engine, and national origin is Germany. So
World War II planes.
in that year, they made World War II planes. They made engines for World War II planes. That's wild, man.
I mean, IBM was making stuff for these camps too, dude. It's crazy.
IBM?
Yeah,
They had
We've
computers?
talked about that before.
yeah.
Right, what was that?
There's a book.
What did they do?
It was the precursor to actual computers. It was like a filing system to keep track of stuff.
Yeah, of who was where and what into these
Oh,
camps.
that's right. I'm remembering this.
And then oh yeah, man, it gets super
And so
weird.
that,
But the
it
place-
wasn't called IBM, right? Was it called something else?
I think
it was IBM.
book. Yeah, the book is called IBM and the Holocaust: A Strategic Alliance Between Nazi
I
Germany.
mean, you
and
ain't
America's
fucking around with
Powerful
that title,
Corporation.
huh?
That title is rough.
Yeah, dude.
If you're IBM,
Straight
you
to the
gotta be
point.
like, fuck, did we do that? Did we really do this?
I don't remember
The strategic alliance between Nazi Germany and America's most powerful corporation expanded. Interesting.
So the area of Antarctica they went to was New Schwabenland.
New Schwabenland. Do you think that's why he dresses with the space
100%.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun. So they're all in contact with the aliens.
I think, well, dude, I mean, it gets into. See, a lot of people think this is about power and money.
What do you think it's about?
It's a spiritual war, dude. These people got all the money and all the power. They got more than they could ever want.
I think they want complete control.
But that gets into spirituality, not just complete control, but lowering your vibration and jacking your loosh. Your spirit energy.
You think they're doing that consciously, or do you think they're doing it like they're chasing the economics, and along the way it actually becomes a spiritual battle, because everything is a spiritual battle?
I think it's done purposely. I think they're
evil.
I think they're at low. There's low frequency stuff going on, and they've made deals with people and things, and that's why I think's going on.
That was very ambiguous, but I understand where you're going with it.
Okay. I mean, if you want me, I just don't want to get too weird too fast, bro. But I'm like,
we just opened up. We're good.
I 100% believe this is a spiritual war, and that these people are working with dark entities, and that's what this is all about.
Let's imagine this. If there was like an alien race that came here from another planet and gave just a random group of people technology.
Yeah.
Gave them an understanding of things and how to do things. How much of a record do you think they would keep of that? Wouldn't that be something that people would want to talk about?
Yeah, but that's the beauty of the internet, that we're now able to do that. We could never do that before.
So you think that's what this story is about? That the story is about they went there and they met with aliens and the aliens gave them information?
I mean, Hitler was really into the occult.
Yeah, I know,
like he would
was.
send people all over the place.
No, he had a lot of bad ideas.
Yeah, he had a lot of bad ideas. But see, the occult has a negative connotation to it. Not everything involved with the occult is negative. What the occult really means is secret.
Secret.
So there's not as much
That's
around.
what the word means?
Yeah, it's basically it means like it's hidden.
I always associate it with people that believe in silly shit. When someone starts talking about the occult, I'm always like, how do you feel about ghosts? You know, how do you feel about, like, when people start talking about like dark magic, I'm like, for real? You sure?
I believe in that there's some energy manipulation, but
I don't disbelieve.
Yeah,
I don't disbelieve.
Listen, I don't know what's going on. I just kind of read stuff, and I'm like, how does this fit into the puzzle, right? How does this fit into the jigsaw of life? And you start looking around, and you just start going, okay, man, this is interesting. That is interesting. This starts to make sense.
Yes.
I mean, I wrote a book about Operation Paperclip, and my God, talk about a rabbit's hole.
That's a rabbit hole.
It's a rabbit hole.
Let's explain to people that don't know what we're talking about. Operation Paperclip was when, after World War II, the United States gathered up a ton of scientists from Nazi Germany, brought them over to America, and even Wernher von Braun. They had Wernher von Braun run NASA. He was a Nazi, like 100% Nazi.
Good friends with Hitler type Nazi.
Yes, he ran a Berlin rocket factory where they hung the 5 slowest Jews. They would hang them out front so everybody would know, like, this is what happens when you work slow. We'll hang you. I mean, the Simon Wiesenthal Center said that if Wernher von Braun was alive today, they would prosecute him for crimes against humanity.
Yes, they would.
And that was the head of NASA. That was the head of NASA. That was the guy who got us to the moon. That was the big cheese guy. Yeah. So we were willing to put a lot of really dark things aside in order to gather up the best scientists so that the Soviet Union couldn't get them all. And they got a few of them as well. But we got how many? More than 1,000, right?
Allegedly 1,400, but I would not be surprised if, the story changes and there were more, right?
Yeah.
But that goes back to our discussion earlier about being in pole position. I mean, that's why we grabbed those Nazis. We were like, if we don't get them, the Russians will.
I get it. And, and I'm sure the Nazis could say, I didn't want to do it. They made me. I'm a nice person. I love Jews.
Well, that was part of the mythology. It was like, we got the good Germans. Well, no, we didn't.
Right.
We got the top Germans, and who do you think the top Germans were?
Yeah.
They were coveted by Hitler, Himmler, Göring,
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were right. I mean, there were guys that we grabbed out of the docks at Nuremberg, literally, to come be part of our program. You know,
Well, if you're smart, you're an asset, right? I mean, that's what Genghis Khan used to do. He'd take warlords from the other side and capture them and go, listen, just come over here, bro. Come on, work for me. I'm the man.
I mean, ideology aside, I'm super smart and I want that to be known. That's kind of that's the competitor, right?
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
you cannot be the best rocket designer in the world and not want those talents, demonstrated. That's
Sure.
Werner von Braun's story. That's the story of all of them. And that was so shocking writing that book, because it's like, wow, huge amounts of talent, but how far will the competitor go to see their baby come to fruition?
Mm-hmm.
What are they willing to put aside?
Yeah. Did you pay any attention to the other places where Nazis went when they escaped Germany, like Argentina in particular? Have you ever seen any of that stuff? Where they have entire German towns down in Argentina.
Right?
They do Oktoberfest down there. They wear lederhosen. They drink out of steins. It's crazy. They speak German. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, my friend Tim Kennedy went down there, and he said he was literally talking to people, interviewing people, and they had photos of SS soldiers on their wall, and they would talk about how grandfather was a hero, and they're like, like, you're the descendants of escaped Nazis, and they put together a town down there.
I mean, the way the Nazis were able to flee is I can't read enough of that. I mean, that's what Jamie and I were talking about. It's like,
dark.
Oh my God. And it's endless. I mean, they're so, the ones that there was a famous guy that we got. He was the Surgeon General of the Third Reich. I mean, think about that, okay? Dr. Walter Schreiber. I mean, he was such a bad dude. He was in charge of the vaccine program. I mean, you just put those words together and your mind goes really dark, right? But we wanted him because he was an expert in vaccines. And we brought him to the United States. He was the only Nazi I found of the ones, the paperclip scientists who came here, that was actually outed. Right? He was outed as a Nazi, and that's because one of the investigators at the Nuremberg trials recognized him.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's the only one we got out of here. And guess where he went?
Argentina.
And lived out the rest of his life there.
The show was called Finding Hitler. They were trying to find evidence that Hitler somehow escaped. It was really a bullshit premise of the show, but what was interesting is that there were thousands and thousands of Nazis that made it to Argentina and set up shop. It's throughout South America. There's a lot of Germans down there. It's kind of weird.
If you can imagine me on book tour of like the kind of questions I get, because we're talking, right? Having written books about Area 51, Nazis,
Jesus.
right? Assassins.
How are you still alive?
People, just last night I was at a book giving a signing, and people are like, "Is Hitler really dead?"
Oh, God.
Right?
What if he was alive? He'd be the oldest man alive.
Right?
Can you imagine? He was probably like, how old was he during World War II? He had to be in his 40s,
yeah,
right?
He'd be hundreds, No, but right? Or they say he cloned himself.
He'd be
right?
160 years old.
He'd be 120 now.
Well, that's what he'd be?
1889.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
Jamie knows.
That's an old man. I mean, there's been 120-year-old people, but it's fucking pretty rare. Yeah. So Operation Paperclip was not even publicly acknowledged until, what was it, like the 90s? Like, when did it become public? I think it was through the Freedom of Information Act, was it?
It was this very intrepid journalist named Linda Hunt who...
Shout out to Linda.
Yeah. I mean, she broke the story. That's what's amazing. I mean, as a journalist, you're always writing on the shoulders of those before you, right? And she had it really hard because she did a Freedom of Information Act request, got all these documents that no one had ever seen. And then the government sent her a bill for $125,000. And she had to spend a lot of time. This is what I understand. I never interviewed her, but for Xeroxing fees.
What?
Yeah. I just love that detail because it's like, it's such a covert way of getting someone to stop. It's like, okay, here's the information, we had to give it to you, but now here's your bill. Imagine if the government's coming down on you for $125,000.
Yeah, see,
You're
that would make me
uncomfortable.
want to call a bunch of rich people and go, hey, let's all just donate $1,000 to this lady.
And it's a different world now. You could do that. You could do a GoFundMe campaign.
100%.
But my God, in the 80s and the 90s, you were
Right.
just like out on a limb.
Yeah, they would crush you financially.
Right?
We actually had this very same discussion yesterday with my friend Phil Demers, who's being sued by Marineland. And because of, he was a walrus trainer and trained orcas, and he's showing how
Blackfish?
horrific. It wasn't Blackfish, that's SeaWorld, but
Okay.
SeaWorld is actually, the way he says it's a day in the park compared to Marineland. Marineland's a horrific place in Canada. And anyway, they have been trying to squash him with legal fees by dragging out his case. But we set up GoFundMes, and all his legal bills get paid for from people that want him to win the good fight. And this is an option today that wasn't available to Linda when she was exposing this.
Exposing Nazis.
$125,000. You assholes! Like she should sue them for misappropriation of funds. Like, does it cost you really $125,000 to print those things out? If it does, you guys should be in jail. Like that's like
Right.
with like those $10,000 hammers that they have in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she gets all this information, and does the government immediately acknowledge that they imported these
No.
Nazis?
No, I mean, she wrote the first book, and it was just stunning. And you know,
What year was this?
late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
And, you know, then more gets revealed because they gave her a certain amount. I mean, I filed a bunch of FOIAs. There was releases. I went to Germany.
FOIA meaning Freedom
Freedom
of
of
Information
Information Act, yes. Then I went to Germany and looked in their archives with like a fellow, a German PhD who had, you know, real access to stuff and was able to translate for me while we were there looking at this stuff. I interviewed a lot of grandchildren of Nazis and children of Nazis. And, you know, I mean, this one extraordinary, oh my God, there's a guy, I told you about Schreiber, right? I'm on the narrative level, humans acting, I'm so interested in rivalry and competition, right? As a concept, because this is what America does to be the best, and also as humans, right? Because people are like that, they're built like that. So the Nazis had rivals amongst themselves, and Schreiber's rival was Dr. Blum, who was in charge of the biological weapons program for Hitler, okay? And Blum had a son, and Blum was prosecuted at Nuremberg. You can see a picture of him with a big dueling scar. You know, he was a bad dude. He was
had a dueling scar?
dueling scar.
Duel like a sword duel?
Sword fighting. It was like among the Nazis, they would duel with one another when they were younger students, and then they would pack the wound with horsehair to make it even more pronounced because it looked ferocious.
Really?
Pull up, Jamie. Pull up.
I got a couple. What's his name?
Well, you can pull up Dr. Blum, Blome,
Yes, it's the same.
but also
Look at that big ass scar on his
right?
face.
And also you can pull up Kurt Debus, who was the director of our JFK Center. He was NASA's von Braun's number 2. He had a huge dueling scar, and yet when you look at there he is right there. Knowing what we know now, it's like, come on, you're trying to tell me that guy's not a hardcore Nazi?
So those guys had dueling scars on their faces.
Yeah, you see him?
How often did they duel?
Well, when they were
Did they
in
do
college.
it to the death?
No. It was like on guard, you know,
Oh,
and then
like
they would
fencing?
Fencing.
Oh, this guy had it too.
Yep.
How did they not get poked in the eyes?
Oh, I guess that was the gentleman's rules.
How do you listen, you go in for the cheek, you hit the eye, like that's happens all the time. I mean, they must have cut a lot of eyeballs out.
I haven't seen any photographs of missing eyeballs, but there's a lot right on the cheek, so maybe that was the whole point. It was actually just a bit for show,
Oh,
right?
how weird.
But it was
a badge of honor.
It was
for
a badge of
most
honor,
of these guys,
yeah.
There's more.
And but
wow, so they all had it on their face.
Yeah.
It's all in the same spot, dueling scars.
yeah.
Wow.
So imagine
they
like
wanted to have these scars.
that was a
Jesus Christ. Oh, they had goggles on.
oh, there you go. That's how they didn't take out the eyeballs.
Academic fencing, it says. Academic fencing. So what they were essentially doing, they were having fencing matches with real swords, not with ones with tips.
Okay.
Wow. And cutting their faces up. Fuck, man. Oh, Jesus, look at this guy's face. Yikes. Wow. Dueling cults. That is crazy.
So when you consider Like that people did not know about that. And then you've got these Germans walking around America as part of our space program and our science programs. And, oh, these are the good Germans. I mean, now you really have to say to yourself, come on, guys.
They were all
I mean,
Nazis.
right?
Big ass fucking
Yes.
scars on their face.
Absolutely.
Wow. Oof. That's dark,
Like
man.
OG Fight Club.
Yeah, right. OG.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
Super OG. Yeah. God, that's crazy. Wow.
So I go to interview. Sometimes you, as a journalist, you can get amazing information
Look
from.
at these guys. Oh my God. They're sliced up.
Badge
History
of
of
honor.
European martial arts.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, I mean, that is a martial art. I mean, it's an art of war. It really is. Sword fighting is a martial art. I mean, many martial arts have weapons. Ugh. Sorry. So you go to interview these people.
So to piece together the story,
Yes.
right? I can't tell you, others can, right? Sometimes to find out more about the Nazis, I went to Germany and sought out some children of these top Nazis to see if maybe they didn't have journals or anything they might share with me. And one of them was Dr. Blum. His son, I tracked down, I found him. And he said, yes, you may come visit me. And it was such a remarkable journey. It was like he lived in the Black Forest. I had to take like a taxi through the mountains, up over the hill, down through the valley, into a courtyard behind a church to Dr. Blum's house. So he was the junior to his father, who was this horrific Nazi. I mean, a top Nazi, had favor of the Führer, wore what was called the Golden Party Badge, right? Hitler gave out these little buttons. Blum's was, I believe, number 6. So that's how favored he was.
Wow.
And his son, Dr. Kurt Blum, whereas the father was in charge of the biological weapons program, so his plan was to, murder people with biological weapons from nature, right? The son had been a medical doctor, but had left the profession to cure people with flowers. It's called Bach flower therapy. So he was this very interesting individual who had never given an interview before, and he agreed to let me come to him. So I go on that journey, I go to his house, and he was remarkable. I mean, he was so interesting. Talk about the sins of the father, I mean, my God, what he had as a burden, right? And I asked him to tell me everything he could about his father, and he did. And then he asked me to tell me what I knew about his father. I had information from the German archives about his father that he did not have.
Like what kind of stuff?
Like that his father had given something. I'd just come from this archive and found these documents. Dr. Blum ordered that 6,000 tubercular Jews be given Sonderbehandlung. That's the German word. What does that mean? Special treatment. There's a euphemism for you.
Oof.
That was kill those 6,000 tubercular Jews.
When you say tubercular, is that people with tuberculosis?
Yes, they were suffering from tuberculosis. And Dr. Blum worked closely with Himmler, and they just decided to kill them. And, sitting there talking to this man, telling him about his father at his request was remarkable. And then he's telling me what he knows. And then as I'm getting ready to leave, he says to me, I'd like you to have these. And he takes down from his incredible bookshelf. He himself had written 8 books, right? And he takes down these books and he hands them to me. And they're in these wrappers. And I can see that they have Nuremberg nomenclature on them. And what they are is they're his father's documents from his Nuremberg trial. Ooh. And I'm like, I can't take these. I thought he meant take them back to my hotel room, look at them, and then, bring them back the next morning when we were doing the next interview. And he said, no, I want you to have them. And I was like, I can't have them. And he said, I don't want them, and you should have them. And he gave them to me. So I had this stack. So I was like, on my trip home, it was so perplexing because I threw out all of my clothes. I was like, screw the clothes. I mean, I travel with a carry-on bag, right? So in my carry-on bag, all I have is this Nazi paraphernalia that was
Jesus Christ.
in Germany. That is Dr. Blum's,
Oh, my
the
God.
Deputy Surgeon General of the Third Reich's documents from Nuremberg covered with swastikas.
Oh, my
I mean,
God.
he was acquitted at Nuremberg based on all these documents, okay? And, by the way, based on human experiments. And I'm at the airport and I realize suddenly, oh my God, swastikas, like this is illegal. if they go through my bag, I'm going to be arrested. I'm carrying these incendiary.
Right. Do you have any copies of your book on you? So you
I
can
hadn't
say,
written
I'm
it
a
yet.
journalist, but other books.
No. I was just
Oh
like
my God, you
holding my
gotta
breath.
have
I was
at least one.
Joe, I was sweating almost as hard as I was sweating at the beginning of this interview. Right?
I think you're sweating harder.
I was. I went through because I was like, wow. I went through, no problem. Got home. I have them in my office.
So they didn't check anything.
Nope. They didn't say boo.
Ooh, lucky you didn't go through Israel.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? It's not, the swastika is not outlawed there, but it is in Germany. You may not have any Nazi paraphernalia whatsoever. In fact, my Paperclip book, which has a swastika on it, had to be redesigned, the cover for the German publication. And it just has like broken up images of the Nazis because you cannot reproduce that image in Germany.
I'm not pro swastika, but it's so strange that we've given so much power to this design that you can't even see it. It used to be there's a temple out here that I believe it's a Hindu temple, and it was a part of Hinduism. That this swastika predates World War II. It predates the Nazis. It predates their sort of reclaiming of it. And this building that was built out here in I think it was built in the 1920s, has swastikas on it. There's a big plaque explaining why there's swastikas on it.
I know they have it at a different angle, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, talk about branding, right? I mean, my God, that was, and the Nazis were, kings of that. I mean, they were
not only that, the mustache. That guy killed that mustache. There's not another thing like that.
But he didn't kill the dueling scar, right? That could come back.
Do you think?
No, not after your show. What do you have? 4 million viewers?
Probably.
Right?
But people don't think about it that way. They don't think about the dueling scar as being a Nazi thing.
No, that's what I find remarkable, right? They really
did,
don't.
But the Nazis did.
The Nazis did. And then you look, there's an amazing photograph of JFK, Lyndon Johnson, Kurt Debus sitting at, for a launch, a moon launch. And there's Davis with his huge dueling scar. And I'm like, and their position was, he's one of the good Germans.
Well, that culture was a culture of ruthlessness. I mean, it was even the good ones. There he is.
Yes. Good job, Jamie. Look at that. Can you believe that?
Scar on his face.
They still give out an award, by the way, that's called the Kurt Debus Award. And I rang them up and said, why are you guys giving out this award? He was a hardcore Nazi.
What do they say?
They were like, they've hemmed and hawed, and I finally said, well, at least tell me what you say to people who ask that question. You know what they said?
What?
No one's ever asked us that question before, Annie.
Well, they will now. Jesus. Oh, it's when you really stop and think about the horrific nature of what the Nazis did. I mean, how inhuman it was, and how crazy it was. That had to permeate the entire culture. There's no good Nazis. There was not one. Even one of them that was looped into that had to be responsible for some awful, awful shit.
I mean, Einstein said it the best when he said, you could have left. People who could have left should have left, right?
Well, do you know the story of Fritz Haber, right? The guy who
Yes.
he wound up having to flee, and he's the guy who created Zyklon gas. And he created Zyklon A, which had smell built into it, so that it would warn you when you were using this pesticide. And then the Nazis turned it into Zyklon B, where they removed that element that added the smell and just this odorless, horrific, poisonous gas that they used to gas the Jews. And he was a Jew.
I mean, then when you think about it, he was no longer useful to them because when they figured out he really was a Jew.
Yeah.
And
well, once
him
World War II came around, see, he was a part of World War I when they first started using gas. And there's a great Radiolab podcast about it. I think it's called The Bad Show. But anyway, what essentially it says is that he was up for the Nobel Prize at the same time he was wanted for crimes against humanity. Because he was up for the Nobel Prize for creating the Haber method of extracting nitrogen from the atmosphere, which was used for fertilizer, which to this day they say 50% of the nitrogen in human bodies was created by the Haber method. So what you get from food, from vegetables, like that nitrogen, 50% of it at least, is coming from this guy's method, who was a scientist, who was a Jew, who was working in Germany before it became Nazi Germany, and then was the guy who figured out how to use gas on people. It's a dark. His story
twisted,
is a
dark tale.
story. I mean, he died looking for medical treatment because he had to flee Germany, and he's had a bad heart. And he died on the road trying to get to Switzerland. I think it was Switzerland.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, Nazi Germany is like the pole position taken way too far, right? And that's what's remarkable, that the Pentagon was like, okay, but we can learn from this. And there are elements that are dark in that.
Well, it also comes out of the devastation of World War I, right? The economic devastation, the defeat. The Germans are in this terrible state overall in terms of their morale. And then along comes this charismatic psychopath that is just really good at screaming. To this day, I don't speak German, but to this day, when you watch that guy scream and yell at all those people and see them respond, it gives you chills.
Oh my God.
You're like, that kind of charisma, that kind of influence that someone has, where they can do that in front of thousands and thousands of people and everyone's goose stepping, and it's like, woo, to see. We're very fortunate there's not something like that right now. And our forefathers and our grandparents and whoever fought in World War II, if it wasn't for them, who knows where this world would be right now, because that was a literal evil empire straight out of Star Wars. I mean, that was like the Sith Lord. They really were. They were human beings who were doing some of the most evil shit that you could, almost demonic, if you really stopped and thought about it. If there were demons pretending to be people, they would do the same thing.
I mean, that's why I think it's a rabbit hole, because it's so hard to comprehend that, like, a culture of educated individuals in that moment in time that you talked about between World War I and World War II could completely become malevolent.
Yeah, that's one of the more disturbing things about the Nazis, was that there were so many of these people that they did extract through Operation Paperclip. Brilliant engineers and scientists that were also evil.
Right.
Like, those two things are very uncomfortable for us. We like to think of our scientists as being the people that are out there trying to solve the mysteries of the universe and provide us with the technology to make our life better here on Earth. Not the Nazis. They were trying to figure out how to kill people better. They were trying to figure out how to use rockets to shoot them at Europe and blow people up. And it's one of the more telling and horrific times in our history when you because it's one of the more horrific ones that we have footage of. Because we don't have footage of Genghis Khan.
Right.
We don't have footage of Alexander the Great. We have stories and tales of Napoleon and some photographs and drawings of dictators, past and present. But we have a lot of footage from Vietnam. We have a lot of footage from World War II. We have a lot of footage from modern wars. And out of all of them, the one that scares us the most, scares me the most, is World War II.
Do you think those scientists, when they came here, because this is I could not figure this out even after writing that whole book. Do you think they came here and actually thought about what they had done, or they were able to convince themselves that they were the good Germans, that they were part of it? Because I never saw a single bit of remorse ever. Like, no one ever acknowledged what they had done. So it made me wonder.
I guess results vary, right? I mean, I think there's probably two people that go through the same thing, and one person has no problem with it, and the other person literally can't sleep. I don't know. It's a good question. It would be interesting to interview them. The ones who've been caught, who've been prosecuted, and who've been chased down, I mean, they've got one fairly recently. They caught a Nazi like just a few months ago. It's one of the last ones. He was in his 90s, I believe. The ones who survived, they all tell different stories. And some of them say they just were following orders. And, you know, some of them say that they didn't do it. They're being framed. They all have different stories. It's
one of them. You know, you write a book about that, or you think about it, and you kind of you go down the rabbit hole, and then you have to ask yourself, what does this mean? Or it's too dark, right? Yeah. And so I asked that question to a Auschwitz survivor, okay, who I wrote about in the book. His name was Gerhard Mashowski, and the reason he survived Auschwitz was because he was taken over to the labor camp, which was called Buna. So it was a rubber factory. And it was led by this truly evil man named Otto Ambros, who became part of Operation Paperclip, okay? After being tried at Nuremberg and being convicted of mass murder and genocide, right? We got him out, and he worked for us.
Really?
You got to read the story of it. I mean, it's just astonishing. Otto Ambros, right?
So they extracted.
He was a chemist.
Oh my God!
Right, but he was so Gerhard was at Buna, this factory, this rubber factory, and he lived. And I did an interview with him because I was asking him, the flip side of all of that. And his whole family was killed at Auschwitz. And I said to him, what is any of, we went through all these questions to try to get some closure to this or some meaning. And I said, and then we landed on, I said, well, we couldn't answer, what does this mean, right? What does it mean for today? Couldn't answer. So when I asked him, what matters about all this? He went like this. He lifted up his sleeve and he showed me his tattoo. And he said, that matters. And I have that image seared in my mind. I had never seen a tattoo from Auschwitz before, and I have not since. And it also made me think, because I thought, he's going to die soon, and he has died since. And then that tattoo's gone. So all you have is the exchange of information and people talking about it.
Yeah.
The eyewitnesses die.
How did they get that guy out of Nuremberg? How did they get them to release him?
Well, okay, so he was convicted at Nuremberg. Then he went to prison. He went to the prison where we had all the...
They didn't execute him?
No,
I
no.
mean, obviously.
They executed like the top Nazis, and then a lot of these guys went to prison. So there was a bunch of trials. And so I went to the prison. I saw his cell. I mean, in Germany. It was intense, Landsberg prison. And then because we were sort of policing Nazi Germany after it was not, after the war was over, we were policing Germany. And then a guy named McCoy was in charge. He was kind of like the governor general of Germany. And the Germans wanted Germany back. And they were like, we're tired of you guys policing us. The threat from the Russians was very real. And so deals were made. I mean, I write about all this in Paperclip, based on the documents. And one of the provisions was, we want our guys out of prison. We want them back in society. And that was arranged. And again, you don't even know these things, They're like,
right.
But that was, and then Otto Ambros, and they even gave him his money back. That was astonishing. And the family still has this villa in Switzerland, I believe, or maybe it's the Bavarian Alps, that had been in the family, which is money from, from Nazi Germany. And I called up the son to interview him. He was not as forthright as Dr. Blum's son. And, he hung up on me and said, if you ever contact me again, they have very serious privacy laws in Germany. I thought about going and knocking on his front door. My lawyer was like, Annie, do not do that. They have very different laws in Germany.
For privacy?
Yes.
Even if
for
you're
issues like
the
that.
son of a Nazi?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I would imagine, look, if he didn't do anything, he shouldn't be responsible for what his father did.
No, but he has the villa. That was the point.
Right.
He had all the money. Right.
And he got that money from his father, who got that money from stealing it from people.
Yes.
During World War II.
Yes.
Yeah, like what happens there?
Yes.
But if you go back to that, like, we should really find out who had the plantations in America and who benefited from that. Like, go several generations from there. I mean, you could get weird with war.
Reparations
and
are
with evil
big.
deeds where people profited. Yeah.
I mean, which is sometimes a reason why I realize in looking at these, in reporting these books, which is why certain things are kept secret. I mean, they open up a whole can of worms about reparations.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Was Operation Paperclip, writing that book, was that one of the most disturbing ones for you?
That was dark. I mean, that was so dark. My husband is amazing. He's Norwegian, right? And Norway was occupied by the Nazis for 5 years. Like, people kind of forget that. But he grew up there, and his mom, was a grade schooler and was really impacted. Like, didn't go to school for 5 years while the Nazis were there. They were going to breed with the Norwegians because they were such lovely Aryan people, right? So my husband, having a Norwegian mom, was like, when I was writing Paperclip, it would be so dark sometimes. I would be like down in my office, like, I can't, honey, I can't, and he'd be down there with a sandwich or coffee, and he'd say, but are you throwing another Nazi under the bus? And I would say, yes. And he'd say, keep typing, right? And then I realized, well, wait a minute. The neutral journalist has to really make sure that she's not just throwing Nazis under the bus without really good reason. And so when I was in Germany at the archives, I went to Dachau, the concentration camp, and I asked the lead archivist if I could come and see the worst possible photographs that no one wants to see. And he said, absolutely. And I didn't write about them in the book because I didn't want to subject people to that kind of horror. But I looked at them and I saw with my own eyes people moments before they were killed, and then the bodies afterwards. And these are in human experiments to see whether or not pilots could survive height, or, they simulated different things in chambers, at high altitude or speed. And I saw photographs of, freezing people to death, right? Because they were trying to develop programs where they wanted to see at what temperature humans actually died. Right, and so they experimented on Jews. These are some of the doctors that came on our programs, and I looked at that evidence, and that blew me away. And then I knew when I left there, okay, I can throw these Nazis under the bus.
It's such a crazy time in history where you really stop and think about all the different experiments that they did do. It's almost like they just opened up the vault of evil that said, listen, we have an opportunity. These people aren't people. Let's do whatever we want. It's like they're fake people. It's like they were an invention.
I mean, the perception really played into it.
Oof. It's so gross. It's so scary to think about that humans just, a generation or two away were capable of doing that.
Now, believe it or not, I'm not into UFOs. I don't follow stories or,
Even after your experiences?
No, I'm fascinated with the technology, and it irks me, like every night I go to sleep, that that it was my own doing, essentially, that prevented me from continuing on in the project. I mean, it's that to be on that cutting edge of technology is so alluring to me.
Right.
But by the same token, I don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by. But so I don't listen to UFO stories and that sort of thing. But George Knapp is, he's the guy that has the contacts and tries to thread everything together. And what he recently told me is he found, I don't know, it was either documentation or people that he spoke to. It's that the existence of this project, the project that I was on, it's something that they seem to take out every 8 or 10 years.
So that's a very specific memo, and this is actually, this is the first time I'll be very clear with people about it. It's a big topic of conversation right now. It's called the Wilson Memo. You can look it up. Admiral Wilson met with a scientist who's actually was featured in one of my films. Everybody has been debating whether or not this document of a conversation with a sitting admiral at the time is a real document. It's an actual conversation that happened, and this document is real. Everybody wants to know. The world is going crazy right now in the UFO world. I'll tell you straight up right now, I'm in the position to know, and it is a real document, that it is real. So the conversation you read in that conversation was had. I can't attest to every...
You're not being very clear.
Sure.
Please.
No problem. So there was a document that is circulating right now that is really big. It's going around everywhere. People are asking and wondering.
What is this document?
It's called the Wilson Memo, is how you can find it online, or the Wilson Leak.
There it is. Jimmy's got it. The Wilson Memorandum. Use of human volunteers.
No.
I just wanna make sure that was it. Yeah,
no, that's not it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion, oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G. And if I remember, the document is from 2001. I'm telling everybody right now, it's real. and we'll see. My history is pretty good with like saying if something's real or not, right? So here we go. The document comes out. They meet at EG&G Special Projects. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. This happens. They put the technology away, and then they bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things that's vindicating besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral, and he says, I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access. So I think the takeaway here is, check it out. I'm telling you that is an actual correct, that is a leak. Now, everything said in that document, I don't know.
What are you talking about? What is said in that document specifically?
It's between a scientist and an admiral that are sitting and they're having a meeting, and they're talking about the search for the UFO subject, the search to get special access program access to all of these different things like reverse engineering programs. So in this document, they talk about it. I believe that this document, the person that went was employed by Robert Bigelow, one of the guys that has a couple of orbiting satellites and all that stuff.
He's the guy who owns Skinwalker Ranch.
No, he's not. He was the guy that owns
Skinwalker.
To own
it. Okay.
Yeah, he used to own it. There's a new owner, and I interviewed him for my other film, but there's a new owner, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that soon. But there's stuff that you'll be hearing about Skinwalker Ranch soon because there's a new owner. Anyway, the whole point of this insertion here is just that document kind of validates a lot of this idea Bob just said, that they make a little progress, then they can't go anywhere. They tuck it away, and then they bring it back out 10 years later and start working on it. What is the limiting factor? I think Bob should speak on this, but it's the material science.
It's really where physics is. So I can see them doing that. I mean, I didn't have any information on that, but I think what George uncovered is probably accurate. That we try and do what we can, and once we reach a roadblock going, we really can't figure it out. It's just friggin' wait, put the thing away, wait for science to catch up, and a decade later, let's take the project out again and see. All right, now where can we go?
But there's got to be someone who remains informed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you've got your scientists like you and Barry. You got your people that you compartmentalize. You got these people working on this
there
project.
has to be some people that know everything.
You've got security, and then someone's going to be on the outside saying, hey, we need people to guard this building. Don't let anybody in for 10 years.
I think a lot of that is private industry, and I think that's how they keep it. Yeah, I think that's how they because the government is just so leaky. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
That's what the document kind of proves. You just articulated that it is in control of private industry.
What private industry? Some aerospace company, something?
I don't know.
Yeah, the admiral wouldn't name it in the car in the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So they still have these things, supposedly.
I would guess. I mean, I don't have any information on that.
Have you ever asked anyone that has any inkling of any idea of where they got them or how they got them?
No, but something must have been said to me from Barry, but it was just too long ago, and I can't quite remember what was said, but it just left a seed in my mind. I think at least one of them was part of an archaeological dig. So it's old. At least one of them is old. I don't know if it was the one I worked on, but I remember something to do with an archaeological dig.
Whoa.
So that means it's not just old, it's ancient.
That'd be a great Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
Right?
As all of it would.
Yeah, that tripped me out when he said that for the first time.
Yeah. That's a freak out right there. Just a couple of dudes with some brushes looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex bone. They hit metal.
And when did they find it? That they have 9 of them.
Yeah. Well, and how could we have not heard about that? What about the guys with the brushes? How could you uncover something like that? And
Joe's newspaper at home does. I mean, they said it on that first day.
Oh, you mean the Roswell Dueling record?
Yeah, the one you told me. Yeah,
I have a cover. What is this here, Jamie?
This is the document, but I had to do some digging to find it.
Yeah, it's just kind of... Yeah, so this is where they meet at EG&G, and this is Admiral Wilson, and there's a lot more coming out. Now, I want to be clear, George didn't put this out. He didn't leak this out to anybody. I can tell you how
Who recorded this conversation?
So this was an employee of, at the time, Robert Bigelow.
And this is in 2002?
Right. Do you remember when he had that government contract called OSAP the world all knows about now? And he had NIDS that studied the ranch. So that $22 million, everybody is saying it was for ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The $22 million was for OSAP that was pushed through Congress, 3 congressmen, right? An astronaut. It was pushed through. And that's what that $22 million, by the way, they spend more money on Viagra every year than they do studying UFOs if it was just this program, which I think is funny.
They probably make a lot more money from Viagra
they probably
than they
do
from UFOs too.
Well, you never know how it seeds into population. But anyway, this program, this is what was the mother program. So it got the $22 million. And really it was to study Skinwalker Ranch. Oddly enough, that $22 million all was inspired by the phenomenon they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch because the scientists – they're seeing vehicles come through like a space in the sky.
Yeah, we went there. I went there with Duncan.
Yeah,
we interviewed a bunch of people that seemed full of shit, but a couple that didn't. It was very, very interesting.
Totally. And if you look, I spent a lot of time in the area. I'm not talking about those stories. I'm saying there were scientists hired by the government, right, through Bigelow to study the ranch because they thought it was important. And, whatever. The point is that $22 million was to study that. Then we have ATIP, which is like an auxiliary kind of program of military sightings, like Commander Fravers and that sort of thing. This document is just one of those things that has now come forward that through the Bigelow studies, it was government funded, and then it was personally funded and then government funded. It's just one of those things that kind of shakes you because you got this military guy who can't get access because of the private industry that's holding these non-terrestrial materials, that they can't study it. So that's the claim right now. Give it some time, let people dig more into this. It's fascinating, man.
Probably this is some of the things that we see in the sky. I have a feeling that there is I'm open to the idea of us being visited for sure. I am also very convinced that some of these are either China's, Russia's, or ours.
What happened with New Jersey earlier? You remember earlier
Good
in
question.
the year? Like, it feels like the news cycle, it's actually back to Eric Weinstein. It's that thing of like anti-interesting. That's such an interesting story that was in the news cycle for like 24 hours and they went, oh, okay.
They killed it.
Nothing, I guess.
They
Nothing to
talked
see
about
here.
it all the time and then they killed it. I think they were probably searching for something. The primary theory that I've heard from the Tinfoil Hat Brigade is that there was a warhead that was unaccounted for. There was a nuclear warhead. They've tracked.
Have you seen the numbers on that?
Yeah.
It's the broken arrows, they call them. And apparently there's like 18 broken arrows. And you go, what's a broken arrow? Well, it's a thermonuclear missile, and we don't know where it is.
Yeah.
We've misplaced that.
Yeah.
That's not great news, is it?
So the fear was that there was somehow or another through some port of entry or something, they had made it into the United States. And so these drones were using some sort of gamma ray detection devices, some top secret stuff where they were flying over these areas in a consistent grid and trying to get a reading, see if they could find that thing. Because if that thing exists, you'd be able to get a reading and figure out, okay, there's something down there that's emitting a very unusual signal. We might have found it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the argument for life visiting us, is the idea that we split the atom. And somehow that's like a fire alarm in the universe.
That's why the club, the mothership, the rooms are named Fat Man and Little Boy.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, because after the...
Yeah, because after the bombs is when the UFO phenomenon really hyped up. It really increased radically. The Kenneth Arnold sighting, the famous where the term flying saucer was coined, that was in the 1950s. I want to say that's like 52. And then
it feels like that. It feels like, I don't know, 10 years ago, talking about being visited by aliens was like absolutely tinfoil.
Yeah.
And now politicians are asking questions and we kind of want to know more. And yet it feels like it's kind of a new story that wouldn't be surprising now.
Right. Well, I think that's the goal. Like, the goal is to normalize it. And if you were a government, we had Hal Puthoff on, who's a physicist who, during the Bush administration, was contracted along with several other scientists to devise a list. This was the mandate. They came to them and they said, here's the issue. We have crashed UFOs and we have recovered biological entities that are not of this world, what would be the pros? And they didn't tell them if this was true or not. They said, what would be the pros of disclosure? What would be the cons? And I want you to attach a numerical value to each one. So disruption of government, religion, politics, all these different things. Like what would happen to the nuclear family? Like what happens if we know we're not alone? What happens if we are visited on a consistent basis? What happens? And when they did it at the end, all of the scientists had achieved similar conclusions that the cons outweighed the pros in terms of numbers. And so because of that, they decided not to disclose. So this was like during the 1980s, I guess? 90s? When was Bush 2? No, okay, 2000. So 2000. So it was around then. Yeah.
Yeah, what do they know? What do they tell you the first day?
I don't think they tell you the first day. I think the president is a temp. The president's like a substitute teacher. I don't think you get to know much. I don't think Trump knows.
Well, I
think they probably
worry that
told
it's
him
all,
some things.
I worry that the government is like, there's a theory that there hasn't really been an American government since 1945.
No, since 63.
Well, because everything got siloed.
Mm-hmm.
Like in wartime, everyone's talking to everyone and making everything happen, and it's like, okay, we're at war, and then everything gets siloed, and okay, that's a secret thing, that's a secret thing, that's a secret thing, and then the guy that's holding the secret keys retires, and that whole department's just funded forever, but you don't quite, they're not talking to them.
And then you have people that are in great positions of power that get off on keeping these secrets and keeping this information and having the knowledge and keeping it only to themselves, especially if they're manipulating things. This was like a big problem with the CIA, and this led to when they had the disclosures and the Church Commission, and when people found out what the CIA was up to and all the weird shit they did with MK Ultra, and
oh my God.